This is lesson 16, and I'm going to continue with the modules, and now we're going to finish up with the door module. So our architectural drawing underlay is our best information is that the width assigned to the door elements that we need is 3 foot 4 inches, which represents a 2-inch door frame on either side, and it has a height of 6'8". And then there is an instance of a double door at the back, which we'll have to provide for. So we're first going to design the 36-inch door module, and we're going to fit it into the space here. Now, before, if you remember, I did create a series of openings representing the profile of just the opening itself, including the door and the adjacent windows. This time around, I'm not going to draw into that, but we're going to draw into the walls themselves. It's more likely what you'd be doing anyway. So let's start first by simply drawing a rectangle into that space. I'm going to double click that and make it a component and call it my .36 by 80 door. Well, that's going to include the frame as well, and we'll decide on a strategy for how we're going to go about that. But for now, we're starting with the door component, which is a simple rectangle. Let's turn this off so that switch to opaque and not X-ray mode. So when I double click that, what is it that I'm looking at? Well, 2 inches around the perimeter here represents the door frame. So the first thing I want to do is offset 2 inches. So I'm beginning to draw, basically I'm beginning the drawing. When we measure across here, we see that we have 3 feet. Right? Then for height, we have 6'4". And 6'8" overall. Well, this is slightly problematic because the door ought to have a minimum of 80 inches. So if I include the door frame here, I'm not going to be able to manage an 80-inch height door. So I think and obviously there's not a door frame at the sill. The sill has to meet the ground. So there's a couple of adjustments that we're going to make. And let's just go ahead and draw them. Right? We're going to continue the left and right edges of the door frame to the ground. Take the eraser tool and remove that line because you can't have, the sill has to be flush with the ground. And in order to accommodate the 6'8" height of a door, we're going to have to move the top of this frame, or the head, 2 inches vertically. So I'm going to select these 2 edges, take the move tool, and just on the blue axis, enter 2, see the bottom right, moved up 2 inches. So now let's close this component. And examine what it is that we have here. Right? So the door frame's going to be a little taller. The head doesn't really align with the tops of the windows. We can deal with that afterwards. But the important thing is that we have a viable door module. Oops. So I'm going to start by modeling the door frame. I'm removing that interior face, and I'm going to extrude this to the inside. Just make it the thickness of the walls. I'm going to move it out 8 inches. We don't need that dimension anymore. Triple click this. And that is going to be the first of our nested components. I'm going to make that a component and call it a 36-inch door frame. Door frame. So in actuality, that is a frame around a 36 by 80 door. Let's assign close that component, make sure that I did what we were accomplishing. Yeah, there's my frame. Double click it, select all of it, and we're going to give it a material. We're going to make it something slightly different than the other. Than the cherry, to sort of distinguish it from it. Bamboo, why not? And close that component. Close the component. So this component is a 36 by 80 door, and that is going to be composed of the door leaf, which we haven't yet modeled, and the frame itself, which we did model, and we nested it inside this 36 by 80 door. Because the door leaf itself is a separate component, I'm going to draw on top of this door frame component first, so that we have an independent instance of the door itself. So I drew the rectangle there, double click, with 5 entities, and I'm going to make that a component. and call it 36 by 80 door leaf. Right? And that's in anticipation that we're going to need a double door that's going to be composed of 2 door leaves and a larger frame. Right? So there's my door leaf. Double click it. So far it's not much other than a face. Let's extrude it 2 inches to give it some thickness. I think we did. Did I manage that? I think so. Triple click it, and let's paint it. Well, let's give it that cherry. And close that component. So why did I model that independently? Because it allows me to control it independently, which is probably the case. I'm going to move it to the inside 6 inches. Okay, we're taking some liberty with the frame as it actually would be built. In other words, a more careful examination of what we're constructing here would have to accommodate, you know, sort of where the hinge is, a stop or on either side that allows the door to swing correctly. So we're not concerned with that right now. So let's go back to opaque mode. You can see that this artifacting is happening. Well, let's clean up this element. We don't need that edge. We'll leave that there. Close that component. So now we have 36 by 80 door and its sleeve, and I'm going to group those together. Oh, we can't until, right, I have to be able to select it separately. 2 components, make it a group. We can assign the group a name. For illustration purposes, we go to the outliner here and say rename. Single 36 by 80 entry group. Okay, which is composed of the 36 by 80 door, which is a frame, and that door leaf. So I can now select that group and copy it wherever I need it. I could make it a component, but I'm not going to do that just yet. Tap Control key, make a copy, and I'm going to drag it to there. right? So I have to rotate that into place. Let's just do that from the top. Oops. $9.90. Okay, so that moved it out the 8 inches of the door, so I'll have to move it back into place. Hopefully we will there, right? And I'm on the outside face, so we have to push this 8 inches to the interior, right, in the red axis, so that we're flush interior. That's that group. Then we'll need one more instance of it here. And let's start by dragging, moving a copy of this there. You can see I'm snapping. If I snap to the inside endpoint, then I'll have to move the door to the interior, but I can also snap to the outside endpoint, and that's actually going to put it exactly where I want. However, it's reversed, so I will want to right click. The many tricks, you can flip this along the group's blue axis, and that will, oops, flip this along the red axis. No, sorry. Flip this along the green axis, and that reverses it. So now I have the correct orientation with it, sort of a sill threshold on mostly to the outside there. Okay. The double door is a similar problem. I'll need 2 door leaves to solve this problem, but let's create the door frame first. Double click this and make component. $72 by 80 door system, whatever you want to call it. For now, it's got to be nested, so we'll remember we need to take that top edge and move it upwards 2 inches. Otherwise our door won't be 6'8" in height. Then we need to offset 2 inches. And we need to draw past the sills. So I'm just taking the left either edge, drawing down to the ground, removing what would be the sill, and we don't need that face that forms the inside of that. Let's double check our dimensions. So from here to here I have 6'8". This is correct. And then I'm going to take that face, push it to the interior 8 inches, and that's going to be our door frame. Triple click and make that a component. 72 by 80 door frame. For purposes of illustration, I'm going to paint it a color. I'm going to give it a pale green. So, whoops. Inadvertently let's drench it in pale green. Close that component. So we have a green door frame, and we need 2 leaves in there, but since we model those as components, we can simply find the 36 by 80 door leaf and place one there and another one there. And let's pause this. So let's look at what we have accomplished. If we were doing, if we needed many of these, right now we have a separate door frame for this double door. I could make this a group. And it's usually a good idea to group that geometry, edit, make, group. And that's what I did with the single door. So I'm going to rename this group I'm going to give it an analogous double door entry group. So it's analogous to the single door entry group, and that is composed of a 72 by 80 door. Let's give that a more meaningful name. 72 by 80, that's a component. 72 by 80, 22 by 80 door frame. And two 36 by 80 door leaves. So a single entry is the single 36 by 80, is composed of the 36 by 80 door frame and a single door leaf. We have multiple copies of it. I'll just explain what it is that we're looking at. So if I were to select all three of these groups, you see how all three of them are highlighted here. I could even move them somewhere, right? I don't want to do that, but that's That's essentially what I've created. Those are the 3 single entry groups. Finally, you want to make sure that you have layers you need a door layer, doors. Could be doors exterior in anticipation of having to do interior ones. And now I simply want to select the several groups that I already made. Those 3 are selected, and let's choose this one as well. And all of that, those 4 groups now move to the door, exterior door layer. So that I could hide their visibility if I'm on it. The window assemblies are on their own layer as well. Okay, so that's the end of lesson 16. And I'm going to save this SketchUp file. On 16, opening doors, and post that on the camera.